For more than 50 years, Boston has been treated to the joyful sound of Christmas thanks to Langston Hughes Black Nativity. It reimagines the biblical story with gospel music, dramatic dance, and a cast of more than 75 kids and adults.
And so it was that her days were accomplished, that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger.
He was born on Christmas, but he laid in a manger. Now tell me, wasn't that a pity and a shame?
Now the show is a partnership with the National Center of Afro-American Artists, and NCAA director Barry Gaither joins me now ahead of the premiere, along with Buddy Hughes and Vivian Cooley-Collier, who have both been cast members of this production for more than 50 years. And Vivian, I think that's who we heard singing.
Yes,
just in that clip there.
That was me.
50 years you have been a part of this cast. Tell me, how did you get involved in the production?
It's a long story, but I won't go into that. Actually, my brother and Vernon Blackman's son, who used to be the drama director at the Elmwood School of Fine Arts, wanted to start a rock group. Well, we used one of the studios at the school, and John Russ happened to be in the other studio, and he heard us, and there you have it.
Nice.
Beginning of Black Nativity.
50 years you've been with this production.
3?
53
Yes.
Okay.
Vivian and I are the original cast members.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. How have audiences changed over that time? I know, right?
From family to family, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You could hear people say, well, I brought, you know, like the grandfathers here and then the grandkids. It's a family thing. You know, and you don't understand everybody's not into Black Nativity, but that's their loss. But we have families from the Elmwood School who used to be there at the Elmwood School for Black Nativity are coming to the Paramount Theater now.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there is good attraction with the show from beyond Boston.
Exactly.
We have some audiences from Vermont, from New Hampshire, from other areas around. And I would say we also have an appreciable portion of audience that's not people of color. So we offer the show as a gift from Boston's Black community to men and women of goodwill from all traditions. And we offer it not so much as a simple Christian narrative, but as a narrative about the meaning of new birth and the opportunity that it brings and the perpetual possibility of peace that's created by that recognition.
And I know that over the 53 years that the show has been in production, the stage changes a little bit, things sort of innovate. I know that one of the things that has been on the bill that describes the show is an innovative approach. How do you tweak the show over the years?
Well, let me make a slightly longer frame for that.
Okay.
The first appearance of the show in Boston as a production of the National Center of Afro-American Artists, which remains its producer and owner, that took place at the Elmwood School of Fine Arts in Roxbury, 122 Elm Hill Avenue, in the early winter of 1970. But since that time, the show has been at Blackman Auditorium, at Northeastern, at RCC's auditorium, a time or two at the Opera House, and a very long run at Tremont Temple. And each of those was a different setting. And the show, although fundamentally the same, responded to each of those environments and to the different mixes of audience that each of those brought. A good way to think of the show as one in which there is perpetual innovation and creativity within a tradition that sustains. When people come, they expect to hear music such as they remember from Black Nativity. They expect to see that dramatic dance that choreographs the birth of the Christ child. And they expect him to say, go tell it.
Exactly.
So they come with some expectations in mind. And even though those may change a little, because there are different voices, and each performer brings a different delivery to their musical message, all of those are still woven into and bound up in something that feels familiar enough to be comforting and at the same time exciting enough to be joyful.
Well, I mean, Buddy tells me, how does it feel to say go tell it on the mountain for 53 years?
Well, I didn't actually, I didn't start doing Go Tell It till about the third year of the show.
Okay.
I was the only bass in the show at the start. And that carried on for like 5 years. But it changes every time I step out on the stage. There's no set thing. It depends on how I feel that day. I might do it a little bit slower and a little faster. It's a progressive song. And Go Tell Him On is not the only song I do in the show.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. How did you get involved in the show?
I was drafted by John Ross. I call it drafted because I was at school. I was singing with the Metropolitan Chorus, who later changed its name to the National Center Chorus. And we were on break from a show we were doing called Kids Met. And I was standing in the doorway listening to my sister here sing. And Mr. Ross said, "You sing. What do you sing, bass, baritone, or tenor?" And I said, "Yes." and I wasn't laughing. And he said, "Come over here." So he started playing it. I went from first tenor all the way down to bass.
Wow.
He said, "We need a bass. Sit down." I said, "I can't. I'm on break." He said, "When you're done, be here. Don't make me find you." So you see, I was drafted.
Yeah.
Let me put a footnote to that.
Yeah, please.
John Andrew Ross, who has been referenced a few times, was the music director for the National Center of Afro-American Artists
I see.
from the turn of 1970 until his death in 2006. And he stamped the music that is our approach to Black Nativity. John's relationship to Black Nativity is itself very interesting. John's father had been a roommate of Langston Hughes's at Lincoln University. John Ross thought of Langston like an uncle. And whenever Langston came to town, he stayed at John's house. So in the second half of the 60s, when Black Nativity first toured, it came to Boston. John saw it in Boston, had conversations with Langston about it in Boston, and when John became director of music for the National Center, it was his first significant production to mount. And John created the vehicle of Black Nativity out of the huge resources that were available at the National Center and the Alma Lewis School. What were those huge resources? No shortage of talented singers and actors and dancers and musicians. The vision of Mary and Joseph dancing, and especially the concept of Mary delivering the child in the performance, came from the genius of George Howard. George Howard was one of two choreographers who worked for the National Center at that moment in time. Billy Wilson was the other choreographer. His work more or less in the Alvin Ailey kind of vein. But George Howard descends from the work of Katherine Dunham, who had established Afro-Caribbean dance in American dance theater in the 50s.
Wow.
So that already had a lineage. What John manages to create in this vehicle is this resource of Afro-Caribbean dance comes in, and it's supported by African drumming.
Yeah.
The African drumming derives from Michael Babatunde Olatunji.
Yeah.
Olatunji is the person who made African music on the American scene with his drums of passion, after which African music had a place in the American musical scene. Mr. Olatunji commuted a couple of days a week from Harlem to teach African drums at the Alma Louis School of Fine Arts.
That's amazing.
So our present percussionist, Steve O'Neill, had been the student of Olatunji's. And many of the other members of the cast were students mentored by Olatunji, and enough of a body of people in that to carry forward that musical heritage. So whereas other Black nativities were fundamentally gospel performances, ours brought forward this rich sense of heritage, Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah.
The other thing it brought forward that was striking was the voices of children.
Yes. Well,
The
we
original
mentioned-
production didn't have children.
Yeah, we
Was it-
mentioned now there are 75 children and adults in the production. That's extraordinary.
Well, we have fewer children than at some earlier points.
Yeah.
When we ran a school, we had endless number
I'm sure,
of youngsters.
Yeah.
Now we have a fine number of youngsters,
Yeah.
but I think we'd be happy to grow back more
Yes,
if we ever got
definitely.
back to being
Yes.
a school, because children's voices bring a lightness
So important.
and the gaiety that lends even more to the notion of a joyous, uplifting music.
Yeah.
So those are sort of earmarks
Right. Yeah.
of the production here in Boston. Now, I don't sing. They don't allow
Well, let me ask
in the
Vivian,
show.
since you do sing, what does it feel like to get up there and watch the audience, them bringing back their children, year after year, watching you sing these songs?
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Each year it feels different.
Okay.
Because you touch someone differently. So you're just trying to grab that person and let them know what the true meaning of Christmas is.
Yeah.
And that's like Barry said, that's our gift, So it makes me feel good to know that I lasted this long to do Black Nativity, because I used to live in California and I made it my business. I lived there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I had to be here for Black Nativity every year.
That's amazing.
She came back every year, it's true.
Yep, every year.
All right. Well, I hope that everyone comes and sees Black Nativity.
Oh, I hope
that
so, too.
Has seen this broadcast, that continues to, and that you all continue to bless and touch folks the way you have.
Oh,
in the
we
last,
will.
5 decades. And I appreciate your time. Barry Gaither, Buddy Hughes, and Vivian Cooley-Collier, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can catch Black Nativity at the Paramount Center from December 1st through the 17th. For tickets and more information, head to blacknativity.org.